G'day everyone, and Attack 76 here with some anxious Aussie commentary, and I thought I'd bring you a few news stories that have been coming out of schools. In my last video I showed you the ad brought to us by the Coalition for Marriage, which contained some safe schools material which they could not show with parental guidance. It was given a mature adults rating. So this is a few other things that we've seen going on in our classrooms, and this is from the Kinsey Institute, and I just thought I'd mention that even they say that the average age for first intercourse is around 17 years of age. I've actually had to split this presentation into two separate pieces because there is so much information coming out at the moment. So this is all sexuality education pieces that we've seen come out, and the next one will contain some bits of other areas of education where politics is the focus, not facts and education. Now this first piece is from Catching On Early, which is available in Victoria, and that means it can possibly be used in ACT schools, if not elsewhere, if it comes under the curriculum requirements and the learning objectives in some way, shape or form. And as you'll see, we need to know what the vagina is, and we need to know what the testicles and things are. Now what I want to know is why we don't have a bladder or something if we need to get internal with these things. And I'm going to bring a presentation to you with some of the people that create these things, and these little bits of information that they give the children are actually prompts to open the conversation up into other areas. The one you're looking at right now is for foundation learning, that means kindergarten, and the second one we're going to look at, I will put as many links as I can below, but by year 3 they are going into, as you can see, an awful lot more detail into the different pieces. This diagram then goes into an even further close-up which shows the bladder as well. Wow. And ensures that they know that that's not actually a sexual organ and everything else is. And by the time we're in year 4 we're discussing hair in funny places and how babies are conceived, etc. So we know where that's going, if it hasn't already. Remembering they have a right to curiosity and the teachers are supposed to answer their questions. Alright, the next little bit comes from the Western Australian Growing and Developing Healthy Relationships site, which again, linked down below. I just want to bring you one line that they've got in particular on their teaching notes overview. Sexual health requires a positive and respectful approach to sexuality and sexual relationships, as well as the possibility of having pleasurable and safe sexual experiences, free of coercion, discrimination and violence. For sexual health to be attained and maintained, the sexual rights of all persons must be respected, protected and fulfilled. The sexual rights of all persons must be protected and fulfilled. I will link a video below which has a talk given by a lawyer about the Children's Rights Convention and different impacts that is going to have on parental rights and the rights of children, in fact, to grow and develop at their own pace. This is what they say a successful sexuality and relationships program is going to, education program is going to deliver the children. Physical expression, pleasure, sensuality and intimacy, healthy relationships, communication, consent and safety, environmental influences, media, technology and society, sexual identity, orientation, gender identity and role, values and socialization, family, friends, peers, culture and religion. And you will find this referenced a lot in other programs looking at attitudes and values, reproduction and sexual health. And of course, when you go down to look at why they think this is all a good idea, we find UNESCO. The USA link that is there, that is SICUS, which is the little branch that's come out of the Kinsey Institute quite some time ago. And of course the World Health Organization is what they also refer to. Now the World Health Organization, again you will find that referenced in some of my Agenda 2030 and Identity Education in Australia videos, and they believe that children have a right to this information pretty much from infancy. Alright, the next bit we're going to have a quick look at is one that Moira Deeming spoke about also in a previous video, so we thought we'd just bring you a little bit of a closer look at that. It has come out of the La Trobe Centre, and we really have to wonder why these people keep getting money. Again, I'm going to link a video below that just calls into question the motivation and some of the practices that have been employed to get some of this stuff into our schools and into policy. This individual individual that wrote this transmission and intergenerational journey is Pamela Blackman. And as you can see, we've got this whole agenda in here about sexual pleasure. Now, technically, this is meant to be a thing about if you get a note home, if you get told about this at all, because this is generally taught to year 9 and 10 from what I can tell from the guidelines. This is taught under HIV and STI transmission. Now, the toy box, that's things they're quite happy to do. The recycle is things that they definitely wouldn't do, but they might do at a later date, so you can bring it out later. And the not sure is things that they're just unsure about. And I think the fridge is a bit of a psychological message to kids about that one, don't you? There's nothing there that they're saying do not do, do not engage in, or it's okay to say you'll never ever do. The next one popped up, came home as a year 11 English text. Yep, that's right, this is English. New South Wales, year 11. The next one comes from a site that I've just found. It's called Education HQ, and I'll link this below, and there's a couple of stories that have actually come out of this one. Victorian school accidentally links kids to porn. Now, I've actually found this reported in some of the other major papers, but obviously it didn't get a big amount of coverage as it doesn't seem to have done the rounds in the groups, so I thought I'd bring you this one. Melbourne, in September, Peninsula Grammar on the Mornington Peninsula. A missing letter in a booking link sent to students about an upcoming breakfast meant they were redirected to an inappropriate adult website. The school on Wednesday said it deleted the emails sent earlier in September from students' accounts and was conducting an investigation into the mistake. Kind of ironic that they're talking about schools having accidentally sent out links to similarly inappropriate information in Belgium, and we've had this sort of thing happen on other occasions elsewhere. And that was one of the big controversies with the Safe Schools program in the first place, was where the different hot links within the materials was sending our children. This video is going to go way too long, and I do apologise to people. So again, with them, we've got a bit of who some of these teachers are delivering these classes. Now, I don't know if you saw this story, but we've actually had parents slamming the teaching watchdog for failing to deregister a teacher who showed students R-rated movies, paid them for massages, and told them stories about incest. And of course, this happened in Victoria. Why are we not at all surprised about that? Now, this Chris Adams was suspended from Caulfield Junior College for inappropriate storytelling, which included tales of incest, urination, murder, and defecation, paying for massages, creating videos where students surrounded him like he was some sort of royal figure. Doesn't this sound fantastic? He apparently used his student names in some of these stories, detailed a student having a baby, another one falling in love and marrying her brother, a priest urinating on a girl's dress in a boy's toilet. Isn't this sounds like a lovely teacher, doesn't he? But these are the people who supposedly have the higher moral standing and the level of maturity required to deliver sexuality education to our children. So they haven't cancelled or suspended this person's registration, which means he can still teach. So warning to anyone out there, watch out for this guy, have a look at his face, go back there, find his story, just in case he's decided to change his name and get a job at an independent or a Catholic school near you. Mango and the delightful discovery of childhood sexual abuse. You probably heard about this story. Now, I'm not really going to cover it either. There is so much going on, and if the fact that I can pull up a dozen stories in one go about things that shouldn't be taught in our schools, it's really concerning. It shows there's a problem there, even if you think I'm overreacting. So in this case, okay, I don't object so much to the fact that Year 12 students have been asked to do this, but I do object to the fact that they've called it a delightful discovery. Now, they've said most students didn't know who this poet was, etc., etc. Well, what about? Now, they're the ones that always bring up the diverse and being sensitive and all the rest of it. What if one of these students actually knew what this poem was about, and what if they had had an experience, and what if that was why they knew about it, and they're sitting in an exam being told to define delightful discovery in a story similar to their own abuse story? And that's all I've got to say about that, because I don't think it's appropriate that they were asked to assess that for their Year 12 exam. I don't know what other people think about that, but I am seriously concerned about how some of this information and some of these things that are being required of our children are going to impact them, especially if they have been a victim of trauma, or if they're just not individually ready to approach these subjects. Yes, eventually they're going to have to, but not while they're children. Back to WA, Dad says comic inappropriate for kids. So a graphic novel featuring two princesses teenagers falling in love with each other is being given to Year 7 students at a public high school as part of an English lesson. And my daughter was 12 in Year 7. She turned 12 in Year 7. So we are talking kids 11, 12, 13 are viewing this. And I happen to agree with the dad. Now, this dad happens to have a gay sibling and was voting yes in the marriage survey, which goes against my particular views. But even he sees it as inappropriate to be bringing these subjects up with Year 7 students. It was brought up in English, and it's just a fractured fairy tale. And after reading it, they were asked to come up with their own. So I'm going to let Ray Hadley bring us the next story. And then Mark Latham is going to give us a bit of information about the Safe Schools program that you may or may not have heard before, and then we will wrap it up.
I got the tip yesterday about this story in central western New South Wales. Now, I won't name the town. I was told a primary school teacher in this town directed her very young students, and I believe some as young as 8, 9 or 10, to write letters and send drawings to a convicted pedophile who's an inmate at Wellington Jail. Now, apparently the pedophile is well known in the town where the teacher resides, and I believe she's a fellow parishioner at a local church where he formerly attended before he was convicted of these horrific offences. I believe there is some support from the church for this fellow, despite the fact that he's a convicted pedophile. And that amazes me in itself. I'm not suggesting the church is supporting, but some members of the church are supporting, obviously including this teacher. Corrective Services New South Wales staff at Wellington intercepted the letters, then notified the school. So the pedophile didn't get to see the drawings and the words of the little children. Now, as you'd appreciate, the Catholic school, given the sensitivity of the matter, immediately sacked the teacher. You couldn't have a woman like this in charge of children, surely. So they sacked her. Would you believe the teacher then took the matter to Fair Work New South Wales, alleging she'd been unfairly dismissed. Now, I'd imagine in the protocols of sacking people, perhaps some corners were cut, because it would be an obligation of the school and the school community to get this woman out of the place as quickly as possible. So perhaps protocol was not followed. So we asked the New South Wales Catholic Education Commission about the claim, and this is what they said, and this one we found it's true. Catholic Education Commission New South Wales is limited in what can we say about this matter, as it involves very sensitive issues, the most important being the welfare of students in the care of one of our small regional schools. So it's right. Our paramount concern is always the safety and well-being of our students. As such, the teacher involved in this matter was immediately stood down and an independent investigation was launched. The school immediately notified all necessary authorities, including the New South Wales Ombudsman. Industrially, the matter has been settled to the satisfaction of both parties, but the teacher is no longer working in the Catholic school sector. Well, where is she working? This sympathiser for pedophiles. We asked the Office of Children's Guardian whether the teacher's working with children check would be revoked. They said, due to privacy laws, the Office of the Children's Guardian does not publicly discuss an individual's working with children check. Generally speaking, people issued with a working with children check clearance are subject to continuous monitoring for a new relevant criminal offence for the 5-year life of the clearance. Has this person been charged with an offence? No, she's been charged with, I guess, rank stupidity and totally inappropriate behaviour, but not criminal. You may also wish to contact the Ombudsman, as they have oversight of employer investigations into the allegations of harm to children. So we contacted the Ombudsman's office in New South Wales, who said, we received notifications from a range of agencies, including schools, but cannot comment on individual cases because of strict privacy and secrecy provisions. So we still don't know whether this teacher could be teaching at a school somewhere else. This sympathiser to pedophiles. Now, the Office of Children's Guardian told us that checks are only monitored for new relevant criminal offence. She's not been convicted of a criminal offence. She has just lent support to a pedophile and encouraged children at the school to write and draw pictures and send to the man, like a get-well card.
Safe Schools Coalition is about supporting gender and sexual diversity. Not about celebrating diversity, not about stopping bullying, about gender and sexual diversity, about same-sex attracted, about being transgender, about being lesbian, gay, bisexual, say the words, transgender, intersex, not just be nice to everyone, everyone's great. Safe Schools Coalition is is about supporting gender and sexual diversity. Not about celebrating diversity, not about stopping bullying, about gender and sexual diversity, about same-sex attracted, about being transgender, about being lesbian, gay, bisexual, say the words, transgender, intersex. Not just being nice to everyone, everyone's great. About being lesbian, gay, bisexual, say the words, transgender, intersex. Not just being nice to everyone, everyone's great.
And as a committed Marxist, Ward went on to acknowledge that Safe Schools program was about promoting social change from a Marxist perspective. It's not hard to understand why the Marxists want to promote gender fluidity in our schools. It confuses young people, makes them agitated about their identity, makes them potentially rise up against what Ward calls the existing social order. And of course, it attacks the nuclear family, something that Marxists deride as a source of social stability and part of the way in which capitalism survives in our society. So of course the Marxists want to attack the family, they want to attack the notion of gender reality, that you're born either as a boy or a girl. They want young people to think that everything is fluid in their lives. The wonder of it, of course, is how these Marxists have got a foothold in our education system, how they're allowed to promote these programs in our schools. That's the real evil of what's going on, and the failure of Labor and Liberal education ministers around the country to do anything about this insidious program. Now, in New South Wales, the biggest Australian state, in April, the education minister, this guy Rob Stokes, said he was abolishing safe schools out the window and he was going to replace it with a new anti-bullying program. Well then, in August, have a look at this headline, the Sydney Daily Telegraph busted bureaucrats in the education department. They're running things. The public servants run the schools, not the minister. They were introducing safe schools, another Trojan horse approach to have it up and running in sex education courses. And again, Stokes was forced to say, oh no, that won't happen and I'll sort these bureaucrats out, I'll discipline them. No such thing has happened. In fact, the public servants are running amok when it comes to gender fluidity programs in our schools. I've been told about the resurrection of safe schools in New South Wales under a new guise, a third Trojan horse approach. First it was anti-bullying, then it was sex education. Now, under the banner of child protection, they're reintroducing this garbage into our schools. The minister doesn't run the education system, neo-Marxist public servants do, and that's the real problem we've got in Australia. Now have a look at what I've uncovered here. This is the curriculum outline for personal development, health and physical education courses under the banner of child protection, stage 3 education. So we're talking years 5 and 6. So these are kids as young as 10. Kids as young as 10 are going to be told here, you can see it here in black and white in the syllabus outline, that feminine and masculine are not necessarily inherent categories that pre-exist in each individual. They're trying to say to a young boy, you can really be a girl. They're trying to say to a girl, you can be a boy anytime you like. And what they're talking about here is an insidious approach where parents, educators and popular culture can speak and practice gender as binarisms. That is the binary approach. You're either male or female under our common understanding of biological science. And they're encouraging children to act as their own agents in the construction and maintenance of gender categories. So rebel against your parents and get stuck into this neo-Marxist garbage. That's what's being taught. Now, it goes beyond that. You can see here under the class materials page that they've got a class exercise where the kids are encouraged to bring into school a collection of birthday cards they and their siblings have received over the years. So loving parents are giving out the birthday cards. They've got to bring it into school and the teacher will put the girls' cards up on the display board and the boys on a different display board. But of course the political correctness comes into play. The teachers are told, there it is in black and white, avoid using labels such as boys' cards or girls' pictures. So gender political correctness, the de-gendering of language, you can't use expressions like boys' cards or girls' pictures, according to the neo-Marxists drawing up the education curriculum. And then it goes on to encourage the kids to question the way in which they've been portrayed on these birthday cards by their loving parents. It's a direct attack on the nuclear family, and they're asked what kind of pictures for cards would better describe the way you really are. So your parents have got it wrong, you're not really like this. You give us the description of the way you really are. You can see that in the section under the discussion and the questions that are put to the students. And then at the end of this gender fluidity propaganda, you've got the statement here that individual understandings and personal choices about gender never exist in a vacuum. Oh no, you can't have biological science. Normal, acceptable and desirable ways of enacting gender vary among the different groups we belong and interact with. Therefore, positions taken up by individuals can often be contradictory or fluid. There it is, gender fluidity. As girls and women and boys and men take up a range of different feminine and masculine stances. So it's just crazy that this stuff has got so far into the education system. It is a direct threat to our learning, and it just shows you the madness of how schools move beyond being learning institutions to get into radical gender theory, to get into sexuality, to get into things that the parents would rather talk to their kids about as the needs arise. And beyond that, you've got a lot of kids in these schools gaming the system. They're boys one day, girls the next. They think transgender is funny or it makes them stand out. I've spoken to teachers who say that you've got kids who've worked out that nobody can touch them in the school if they play the transgender card. Because any teacher who said, look, you know, we're gaming the system here, this is just some sort of prank you're playing on the school. If the kid was to do anything about their personal safety, suicide or anything like that, the teachers live in fear. You couldn't possibly touch the kids because they'll be out of a job and front page news in the newspaper. So the system is frozen on the basis of concerns about mental health and the fact they've introduced radical gender theory. Teachers think they're doing the job of parents. The teachers have got to the point now when it comes to gender and sexuality under these neo-Marxist programs, the teachers think they're the parents. Well, I've got news for the teachers in government schools around Australia. Some of you do a decent job, some of you absolutely bloody hopeless, but none of you are the parents of our children. In our lives, you are still relative strangers. We meet you at the parent-teacher night and a few other occasions, school pick-up and the like, but you are still relative strangers in our lives. They're our kids.
All right, so it's been an awful lot of information today. Story on the screen, which you probably can't read very well, but it's just a story out of the US, of course, California. A teacher decided in her wisdom to have a coming out party for a young person who was trans, apparently, and this young person was introduced to the, I believe, kindergarten class as a boy, and then the teacher read some stories, I Am Jazz, and read stories about transgenderism, and the child went to the bathroom and came back out and was introduced as a girl. This has apparently traumatised some of the other kids in the class, and they've gone home absolutely terrified that they might in fact not really be a boy or really be a girl. Now, I do understand that this information is necessary for some children if they happen to be the 1 in 1,000 that is suffering from gender identity dysphoria rather severely. However, the rest of the class should not be put at peril, put in turmoil to fix that, because that's just creating a bigger problem in the long term. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. We'll see you in part 2, and I'll probably have some other things for you soon as well in other areas. Thanks for listening.